Welcome back everyone, I'm back here with Lee Kennedy and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about ceramic coatings, one layer versus two layer, and specifically around our Crystal Serum Light and EXO. Now, normally we sit here and have a chat, don't we, Lee?
We do, yes.
Today it's classroom time and Lee's going to show us on the whiteboard exactly how these coatings work and take us through the technology and the reasons why they are engineered,
Yeah, so how our top coat and base coats works and why you need a two-layer system.
Let's go.
Okay. Okay, so I want to talk you through the different types of ceramic coating technology and how they work. So, if you look at these little circles I've drawn here, what these represent is paint molecules. So it's obviously a massive oversimplification of how things actually work, but it's a good way to view it. So these would be the molecules that make up the top coat of your car's paint surface, which would be a cross-linked polyurethane or urethane acrylate, some sort of organic polymer. Now, previous technology, so I spoke of EXOv5, this type of thing is referred to as a quartz coating. So the way a quartz coating works is it will build up a layer of ceramic molecules on top of the painted surface like this, which are chemically bonded to the paint. So you have a layer of ceramic coating and then the paint underneath. Now our newer coating, so EXOv5 and Crystal Serum Light, these are classed as composite coatings. And one thing they do is they key into the paint surface and actually go deeper into it and actually react with the paint. And what happens here is that they start building up discrete layers of chemically different molecules throughout the paint layer. And they build up a surface like this. The older technology, the quartz, reacts with itself and will crystallize. So if you pour some into a Petri dish, it will form a crystal and you can actually take that out and look at it. Whereas this won't. It will form a semi-crystalline substance, but it's still quite soft. It needs to actually react together with the paint molecules to form the new substances, to form a fully crystallized coating. So what are the advantages of this? So, as you can see here, there's gaps between the quartz molecules and groups of molecules. And this is something we've validated by looking at the two different coating systems under a scanning electron microscope. So we've actually got images of this at a submicroscopic level where we can see the structures that form. So we know this is what is happening. So with a coating like this can clog up with dirt and grease, which is going to reduce the efficacy of your coating. It's going to reduce water beading. It's going to increase dirt sticking to the coating. It's going to make it harder to clean. And it's going to reduce the shine and the gloss of your car. With here, physically, there's less pores within the coating. So there's less opportunity to get clogged up. So you'll get a minimum effect from it. So just by the denser structure, you're already getting a better level of performance. This is also, because it's denser structure, it becomes more scratch resistant, which is very important. And as well, because of the way we've tailored the substances in there, they give a lower surface energy. So this is the non-stick firing pan principle, where nothing can stick to the coating. So this is the difference between quartz coating and our newer composite technologies that were brought in for EXOv5 and Crystal Serum Light. So following on from this, I want to talk about what actually makes up a ceramic coating, what chemical substances go in there, and what's actually happening on the surface of your car. So there are two main substances, which is silicones, or more specifically, polysiloxanes. So these are ceramic polymers. A polymer is a very long chain molecule. As you can see, it's silicon linked with an oxygen to a silicon, and that can form very long chains. So it's in the bracket here, and that just means that can repeat and repeat and repeat as many times as it wants to form a very long molecule. On the side of each silicon, I've denoted an R group, and what an R group is, it's a different chemical group. that in this case is very reactive. So these are designed to react with each other to form more chemical bonds as the coating system starts to work. We also have silica, which is SiO2. Now, some people will talk about SiO2 content, which isn't really that relevant because that's a confusion between the silicones and the silica. Because this isn't SiO2, it's got silica and oxygen in it, so you can see where the confusion comes from. But it's actually the nature of these two substances and the way they're used within the coating that gets across how it works rather than just content. If you had a coating that was 100% silica, it'd just be sand and wouldn't be very good. So the way a coating actually works is, so as I said, these are long molecules, and without all the detail there, they would kind of arrange themselves and look a little bit like this. This would obviously be a three-dimensional structure rather than two-dimensional as on the board, but again, this is just a simple representation of what's going on. Now, these R groups, as I said, are very reactive chemical groups that will start forming bonds with each other and different parts on the chain. And what they do is they link together the chains, and this is called cross-linking. So, common example of cross-linking is vulcanization in rubber. So that is a cross-linking reaction. So rubber is made up of, again, long chain-like molecules. In the case of rubber, it's going to be carbon molecules rather than silica and oxygen. And then they link together to form this sort of cage or ladder-like structure, which gives physically a much more robust structure than you would have previously. These chains as they are would be very flexible. As you can imagine, they can move about in space, whereas when they're tied together like this, it'd be much harder for them to move about, so they become much more rigid, which in ceramic coating is what we want. Now, silicones, siloxanes, are incredibly hydrophobic. They repel water. They also repel dirt and oil, very chemically resistant. So they're all properties that you want from a ceramic coating, but they don't give the necessary level of scratch resistance. So this is where the silica comes in. So silica, which is the main component in sand, in glass, and is also used in the little desiccant pouches you get in some foods. It's incredibly hard, incredibly scratch resistant. So what we do is we take nanoparticles, which is a particle that's between 1 and 100 nanometers, which is a billionth of a meter. And then we infuse this into the coating system. So what you'll get is, you'll get small silica nanoparticles building up within these gaps, within the siloxane cages. So this now makes the surface much more scratch resistant because you're making it much denser and much harder than it was previously. So why is scratch resistance so important? What we're mainly looking at here is the micro scratches and marring that you put into your car when you do a contact wash. Because what that will do is, if you have a perfectly flat surface and you shine a light onto it, the light will reflect at the same angle that it came down at. And if it was a perfect gloss surface, you would get 100% of the light come off. In reality, anything over 90% is a very high gloss surface. And that'll be, you know yourself, if you've polished your own car, if you've taken your car to accredited detailers, when it comes out, it's going to look phenomenal. When the light hits it, the colour's really going to pop. Now, if you're putting tiny little micro scratches in, you're roughening the surface. What that causes is that when the light comes down, it spreads out over a wider area. So if this is your observation angle, you're getting much less of the original light shine directly into your eyes in this case. So that makes the paint look dull, much less shine, much less pop, much less depth of colour. So by adding the silica nanoparticles, we're stopping the scratches being built up within the paint, and we're maintaining that freshly polished look. The downside of this is that silica is very hydrophilic, so it attracts water. As I mentioned, that you get the little desiccant pouches within food that is designed to draw moisture and water out of the air to stop that affecting the food around it. Because the silica, especially when it's got a high surface area, is going to actually draw moisture from the air. So when you add silica nanoparticles, you're increasing the scratch resistance, but you're decreasing the hydrophobicity and with it the cleanability and the dirt repellents. So what we would always advise is to use a second layer system where you again apply a coating that's based on silicones, on siloxanes, that again will cross-link to form these cage structures. But now the top layer has far fewer silica nanoparticles in. There's still some in there. There is in all of proper covalently bonded ceramic coatings, but we use far less in here than we would do in the base coat, because the top coat is there for your water beading, your hydrophobicity, dirt repellents and cleanability. We have this two coating system. This gives you your cleanability, because if any dirt, so if you were to put a drop of water on there, that is going to bead up. Whereas on a surface like that, so if we had the same situation here with just a base coat, we have lots of silica nanoparticles in, very hard, very scratch resistant, but the water is going to spread out because each of these silica nanoparticles is going to attract the water, whereas these silicones will repel it. And that is why you get water beading. So as a summary, that's why you need a two coating system. You'll never get the same level of performance from one, because you'll either lose out on scratch resistance or you'll lose out on cleanability and water beading.
Wow, that was really technical. Thank you, Lee.
That's perfectly okay. Yeah, I mean, the idea was to get it across how the coatings actually work at a sort of molecular level, just to give our customers a better understanding of what they're putting on the cars.
And hopefully now they understand the difference between a one and a two layer system and how one might be a compromise.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And if there's anything that we've missed, feel free to drop a comment below.